somebody like Max may go in very aggressively and it may be to his advantage, but more than likely, he may.
All right, apologies for the break in the sound. We were looking ahead to the Formula One action this weekend, the Monaco race, and of course, because of the difficulty of the track, it's being predicted that it sure probably will be a bit of a tough one there for some of the drivers. 055-111-1997, 055-111-1997. How would you arrange it on the podium after all is done tomorrow late in the afternoon? And of course, in collaboration with Joy Sports and Joy 99.7 FM, that viewing party will come off tomorrow at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Of course, in a few moments, we'll be getting Kwabna again on the phone line this time so that he can give us his concluding remarks. And of course, give us his preferred arrangement based on all of the analysis that has been done on the podium. It sure has been a very, very competitive season this term, isn't it? I mean, for instance, for a driver like Charles Leclerc, who sure will be within home range or within home atmosphere, there's massive confidence because of the way he's performed so far this season. So where would you place it? You can let us know on 055-111-1997. Immediately after this, we'll delve into Black Stars issues and then the very big one, the UEFA Champions League final. Live commentary is coming to you from the ground at the Aviation Social Center as we bring you the Hits FM Rep Your Jersey event. And of course, this will be in collaboration with our partners DSTV Supersport, who will be giving us live images on widescreen right there. Whose side are you on, Real Madrid or Liverpool? Well, the Liverpool fans are ready. They've got the reasons why they are jumping onto number 7 later tonight. And the Los Blancos fans are also ready, giving us very, very good reasons why they are latching on to the record number 14 later tonight. So who wins this one? Well, big question indeed. Let's now get on the phone line and wrap up the Formula One conversation with Kwabna. Kwabna, we're talking about what kind, about the kind of arrangement that you would want to put on, on the podium after all is said and done tomorrow, late in the afternoon.
Well, I'll put Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes on the podium.
In which order?
That I'm not going to commit myself to that one. Monaco is a very dicey track, so I'll put those three teams on the podium. As to who is going to be on the podium, well, let's wait for tomorrow.
All right, let's see how all of it goes. So, reporting time, lights out time?
Reporting time is from 11 in the afternoon at the Labadi Beach Hotel. We're also at the Sakumono. We're also at all the honeysuckle branches. And then, as usual, in Kumasi, we're also at Starbites. But then at Labadi, as usual, we get a 20% discount on food and drinks and all that. So from 11 a.m., those are open. Race starts at 1 p.m. sharp.
Kwabna, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Let's see how it goes tomorrow at the Labadi Beach Hotel. And let's see what kind of arrangement comes off once you decide to steer clear of it.
All right. Thank you very much, Nat.
Sure. Still here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM, and we're getting into our major discussions for this afternoon. We're throwing focus on the new look Black Stars team, its reorganization for the two major assignments, issues arising or matters arising ahead of this, and of course, that very big one. It's Liverpool going up against Real Madrid. who does history favor in this particular instance at the Stade de France later tonight? And how do you feel it's going to go? Well, let's talk about the football and non-football conversations, because all of that in a mixed bag will constitute what exactly will happen tonight on the lush green pitch of the Stade de France, which hosted the 1998 FIFA World Cup. Well, your messages are very welcome. Your predictions are also very, very welcome. And of course, we're going to talk Black Stars issues right now here on the Joy Sports Link. Welcome to the show. All right, thank you very much for staying here with us. And very shortly, I'll be introducing you, my guest here in the studio, who will also be joined by a couple of friends virtually. And we'll be doing some conversations. We'll be having major conversations about, discussions, or about developments within the Black Stars camp, developments within the football space this week, and also throw focus eventually on the UEFA Champions League final. A seasoned media practitioner and lecturer and communications professional Carl Tofor, who is a pioneering face behind this whole Joy Sports brand, is here with me. And like I told you, he was giving me a very big history lesson about the signature tune here and how it came about. Carl, it's always good to see you. And this jersey looks very, very fresh.
It's not fresh, it's actually old, It's one
Yeah,
of
but
the
you've
older
kept it
ones.
very, very well.
I don't,
Yeah?
I really don't like
Buying them,
what's
season after
happening.
season.
No, I really
Yeah.
don't like what's happening now, where they just tweak something small, and then you need to go and spend another £60,
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
£70 to buy another jersey, and that's the quotation marks here, the con job that many of these football clubs and companies are selling out to the fans. They're really ripping them off, because, for instance, let me just give it. I know they can't. Maybe those on Facebook obviously can, but those who on radio won't. But you may have a stripe here, right? And then that's what you're wearing for 2021, 2022. And then for 2022, 2023,
The stripe is
may
taken away.
come down and then turn a bit before. And then the most vulnerable are the kids, who then put pressure on parents
To go and buy.
and then they buy. And so it's something I don't. So I really don't go out. I've had many people offering me.
But of
the
course,
latest-
that goes to explain the big revenue streams for all of these clubs in Europe.
I understand.
Isn't it?
I will not, but you don't do it. You don't do it at the expense of the core people that you really thrive on. Because let's get it correct here. These corporate institutions wouldn't be putting or sinking their money to these clubs if they didn't know that there'll be 60,000 people in the stadium. There'll be yet another 100 million watching somewhere else, so that they are more or less advertising their goods. So the fans are the key people, and you've got to learn to treat them with some level of respect and not with some level of disdain.
Talk about respect and disdain. There's a player of the Black Stars who is taking a decision based on sudden emotion and, a story that has probably, grown over a period of time. And it is Alfred Duncan. Alfred Duncan has announced his retirement from international football, and he states some reasons. We'll get into that very, very shortly. And I'll also get Gary Al Smith, virtually, so that we get into the conversations about who has reported to camp so far. And then we deal a bit with this matter of Alfred Duncan and how he feels. And we'll also do a bit of a historical perspective about players, generally not being happy with not being given the opportunity to play after they've made massive sacrifices to get, to honor invitations, to go and play, to come and play for the national team. But before that, let's talk about the news that came in the last 48 hours, where former director of communications of the Ghana Football Association, Ibrahim Sani Dara, was cleared of any wrongdoing by the ethics committee of the Ghana Football Association. Now, let's place this in context a little bit. Now, the Ghana Football Association's ethics committee is put in place to ensure that certain rules and regulations are strictly adhered to within the operations and within the everyday doings of every person who works within or under the umbrella of the Ghana Football Association. Now, this is also drawn from the mother body, the mother global body, which is FIFA, which also has a very large framework of ethics which dictates how persons who operate within the football space are to comport themselves and are to go about their everyday dealings. All of this is to ensure that the name of the sport is not brought into disrepute. And of course, these chain of ethics, which are published on the Ghana FA's website and on FIFA's website, are ethics or codes of ethics that cut across a lot of our sporting disciplines. So this case was brought against the media practitioner. I'm talking about Ibrahim Sani Dara. Back in 2018, when he was accused of bribery and corruption, as portrayed in the number 12 documentary put together by Anas Aremeyaw Anas. Now, a statement from the Ghana FA said that the ethics committee had dismissed the case against Ibrahim Sani Dara. Now, there's a quote here, and it says, the ethics committee concluded that there was insufficient evidence to support the allegation of acts of bribery and corruption on the part of Mr. Ibrahim Sani Dara. And this is a statement that was signed by the chairperson of the ethics committee, Ms. Phyllis Christian. Now, let's get into it a little bit. Now, the ethics committee has, two chambers, or has two divisions, if I may put it in simple language. Now, the investigatory chamber, I beg your pardon, which is chaired by Dr. Isaac Annan, and they opened a preliminary investigation into the allegation of these ethical breaches. Now, the investigative chamber, took steps to obtain the necessary evidence, which also includes various bits or the full complements of this of the documentary that was published and that was aired, in that year. Now, this was also done by calling the necessary witnesses as they were available, by seeking the facts as the records could show. So the ethics committee requested that one Mr. Joshua Aqua, who was a key witness, was invited to assist with the investigations. However, the committee was informed by the FA that Joshua Aqua was not traceable since the airing of the number 12 documentary. Now, all efforts to find him were unsuccessful. So the ethics committee found from the video evidence and transcript that Mr. Dara had indeed met with some two persons, ostensibly Mr. Aqua and an individual referring to himself as Alassan, who's the manager of the player Thomas Abbey. Now, Thomas Abbey, was the subject because these two persons were supposedly going to influence, a call-up for Thomas Abbey into the second-tier Black Stars team, which is Black Stars B. So, the two requested that Mr. Dara could assist Thomas Abbey with a call-up into the Chan team. And in his utterances, Mr. Dara was heard advising the two persons present to ensure that the player stays professional and that any player who does well would be called by the coach. So beyond, the possibility that he was merely being polite, the investigative chamber also found no compelling evidence to ascribe any motive to Mr. Dara's assurances that the intentions he had expressed, of the intentions he had expressed in his testimony. Now, following this, the video evidence also showed that there was no attempt by Mr. Sani Dara to collect the offered envelope. Now, both edited and unedited videos show that Mr. Dara was clearly seen to make a hands-off gesture and declined to take the envelope offered. So, as I mentioned earlier, now this is something we will delve into further. Now, for the purposes of today and for the massive demand of what we want to do later in the day, where there's a lot of focus being thrown on it, and for the fact that we're also heavily involved in bringing a lot of people together, would want to discuss a few other matters, in addition to this. Of course, we're free to bring in our comments. On this particular matter. But of course, let's remember that here on this show, we do not encourage any name calling and any insults. Let's be very constructive with our criticism if there is any, and if there is any feedback, let's do the same. That is the kind of standard that we've established here on the show, and we'll keep it as it is, and for as long as we all remain here and we all continue to serve you. We're still here on the Joy Sports link on Joy99.7 FM. Gary Al Smith is here online to join us, and of course Carl Tufor is here in studio. Thank you very much once again for joining us. It's always great to have you here.
Yeah, it is a privilege to be here. I think I'd make a comment or two
Very well.
concerning that. First things first. I'm saying these things because I can't remember exactly what happened on the video because I haven't watched it a second time. I'll do that when I go back. But Nat, one of the most important things as far as that video is concerned is that what we saw, I really didn't see the need for the ethics committee to waste this time and go into it. Because we saw that Sani Dara had refused the offer. If Sani Dara had taken up the offer, I don't think he'll still be doing CAF work right now. But at the Nations Cup, he was there, wasn't he? At the club.
But of course, in that documentary, I was part of the, I viewed that documentary. I was part of the second set of people who viewed on the day of the premiere. And, the narration was that he made arrangements to pick up, the amount later. However, I cannot say that I saw.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I was going to get to that because I remember that part very well.
Very well.
The narration really said he was going to do that. But if you put this in a court of competent jurisdiction, the court would ask you, where's the evidence?
Very well.
And we didn't see it in the video. So for me, it was a non-starter. The ethics committee, for me, shouldn't have, quotation marks, investigated and then come up with a decision. You are innocent unless proven guilty.
Guilty, very well.
And the video didn't show that. So for me, it was just a simple waste of time.
Okay.
There were people who jumped aboard on various WhatsApp platforms.
Very well.
For and against. It was ridiculous. What we have, you tell me that somebody did this and I watched the video and I don't see it, and then you say he later picked it up somewhere else, then I would need evidence.
So that's what I wanted to land on. That I saw, the documentary, and I do remember as well that the narrator says that the gentleman made arrangements to collect the amount later. I haven't seen any video or any evidence, or any following or any subsequent video to the effect that he
that's all we should depend on.
Very well.
That's all
Very
we
well.
should depend on.
Okay.
So for me, it was, listen, am I right in saying that Sani has taken the thing to court? Yeah.
Yes, he
and
has.
sued for
so that's
20 million.
Very
so
well.
let's see what comes out there.
Very well. Very well.
But this one, until the court says he is, for me, he's innocent unless proven guilty.
Yeah.
Others may not have been so, but I'm focusing on Sani here.
Very well, but Carl, the other bit is that you belong to an association which has unique rules and regulations and a code of ethics by which we're all supposed to abide. And so, if there is an allegation made against you, I believe that legally it's just right that we go through the processes of verifying or otherwise, so that that record is there that this was done. This particular procedure was followed to ascertain whether or not this really.
So was that going to supplement the victim who has now wanted to clear his name and assent to a court of competent jurisdiction?
Well, I am looking at.
I understand you
very well.
I very much understand you.
Very well.
I really do. But for me, listen. We've got so many problems in this country within the sporting and particularly football fields. Surely shouldn't we be doing, because like I keep on saying, and I'll repeat myself, until otherwise proven, he's innocent.
Okay. Well, your messages are very welcome. It's 055 997 055 997. Okay. We'll be getting into that in a bit. Let me just touch base with Gary and see if he's here with me. Gary, can you hear us?
Hello, Nathaniel.
Great.
Yes,
Good to have you. Good to have you here, Gary.
Yes.
All right. So let's begin with a reaction. That is, if you have one, on this development with Sani's story about the ethics committee clearing him.
Yeah. I think that it's very important in this jurisdiction, Nathaniel. And hello, Mr. Carl, first of all. Good afternoon,
Oh,
Mr. Tufo.
Gary,
I'm saying, yeah,
coming
Mr.
from
Tufo,
you
I beg
and saying
I beg
Mr. Carl is a shocker.
I beg you, Mr. Tufo, not Mr. Carl. Mr. Tufo.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, now it was only last week. Carl said I either call him Carl or Mr. Tufo, not Mr. Carl. That's the context in which
I detest that kind of description as well.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of our former presidents accused the country of having a very short memory. And if you follow the news cycle a lot, because the news cycle is so ruthless and brutal, it changes. This week alone, we've had about 2.5 major stories.
Yeah.
Making the headlines within days of each other, and then you forget the first one and move on to the second thing, isn't it? So it's important that Mr. Tufo gave us that context, but also not just that. When we put out the news, when the GFA put out the news, and then Joy Sport and Joy FM also passed it on, you had people who were not too clear about why has Sonny been vindicated? Why hasn't he been vindicated? Wasn't he shown in the video? So it's important that we provide a bit of context, like Mr. Tufo did, and also a bit of information. So a bit of information is that after number 12 was aired, Mr. Sani Dara was, on radio, on all over the media, at pains to try and clear his name that if this video were really a comprehensive job, then it should have shown me clearly, like in other instances where we saw other people actually receiving, going through the motions and all that, collecting the said inducement. But as Mr. Tufo said, it did not show. It only said that he later went to collect it. It was on that basis that Mr. Sani Dara actually went to court. People forget that. He went to court.
Yes, he did.
He went to court to accuse Tiger IPI and Anas, as an individual, and Tiger IPI as an organization, of besmirching his name, okay, and all that. Long story short, Mr. Sani Dara lost the case and was given a charge of 10,000 Ghana cedis, basically for, as it said at the time, wasting the court's time. Now, so who has cleared Mr. Sani Dara now? It is the GFA Ethics Committee. This is important in our job as journalists to make this clear. Okay. The GFA Ethics Committee have decided that within their definitions
and their confines of the association. Very well.
This is important.
Yes.
The GFA Ethics Committee takes its power and its definitions from who? Its mother body,
FIFA. Yes.
Which is why you may be guilty in a court of competent jurisdiction somewhere in the world, but you may operate in the areas where FIFA operates because FIFA has its own unique definitions for some things. Okay. That is why it is tricky. You may have heard a lot of journalists and things giving different opinions as to why they think Mr. Sani was guilty, why they think he was innocent, and so on. But these two distinctions are crucial when you are making your judgment as a listener or as a member of or a stakeholder there. One, he took the case to court, accusing the Anas team of dragging his name into disrepute and all those things, libel and slander, all those things. And then the court decided that Anas and the team were right for putting him, and it was not illegal. But when it went through the GFA's ethics committee, they have decided that they cannot find, because they didn't find sufficient evidence, like Nathaniel read. Okay, so that is it. What you think independently and I think independently are different things, and we can go about it all day.
Gary.
But as Mr. Tufo said, yes.
Just a quick one here. What were the exact words the court used? I thought the court implied or imputed that the voiceover did not give enough evidence.
All right, so let me answer that. Now, Mr. Dara filed a 20 million Ghana cedi defamation suit against Anas and Tiger IPI because Tiger I and Anas alleged that he took a bribe to influence player selection. Now, his lawyer was Mr. Dominic Ayine, all right? He told a local media back in 2018 that the GFA communications director, Sunny, had never requested or accepted any bribe from operatives of Tiger IPI who had feigned interest in helping a brother to get a call up into the Black Stars TV. So Anas's team had gone to Sunny, apparently, to tell them that their brother wanted like all of us journalists, we get calls and then we all told them that we can't help them and so on. The Tiger IPI team claimed that Sunny said he can help them and then go on and then went on to take money. Okay, so it was this interaction which was captured in a video as part of this undercover investigation. Now, Sunny Dara fought back, insisting that his reputation had been unfairly damaged by how skewed the report was. Okay, and he said that a careful view of the portion of the video relating to him showed that he did not accept any bribe. So, in the end, the counsel for Sunny Dara, that's Dominic Ayine, insisted that the voiceover, like he said, defames his client because the video does not support the allegation of bribery. And that was what they were going to the court to argue out. But the court decided that it will not hold and then gave a fine or slapped Sunny with a cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis in favor of Anas.
Did Sunny appeal?
So you see, he did not appeal, which is the other thing.
Then we leave that there. Very good point.
You see, that is why I don't want to go, because it's been 2 years. This was in February 2020. Some would say if Sunny really thought he was innocent and he really wanted to, why didn't, with a man of repute as Dominic Ayine as his lawyer, why did he not follow it to a certain conclusion? But again, we leave it there, because these things are, I don't know, you understand, these things are very, very murky, because there have been suggestions from some quarters that it is the same Anas who did a documentary about judges being induced to, make rulings in their favor because of chicken, goat, plantain, yam, and so on and so forth. Some in favor of Mr. Sunny have alleged that if Mr. Anas was able to have a documentary of such power and such depth, couldn't he have also used the same means to get a ruling in his favor? You and I were not there, so we can only say the facts of the matter, you see. But what we can tell listeners is that it is the GFA Ethics Committee that have said that he is innocent and he can be reappointed into football matters. So that is what it means. It means that the GFA, because for all these years, because of this ruling, the Sunny has been unable to officially work for the GFA within the jurisdiction of Ghana, because this thing has been hanging over his head. What this means is that after this publication yesterday, the GFA are free to officially engage Mr. Sunny Dara in any capacity. In the intervening 2 years or 4 years since the documentary came out, Sunny has only been able to work for CAF and FIFA because those have been outside the jurisdiction of Ghana. So it's
interesting, isn't it, Gary? Very interesting here, because if the ethics committee finds a person not guilty, does it override what a court of competent jurisdiction has said? Because the ethics committee, and that's where we need to, Nat, you probably need, like you said, you do it in depth, but probably need to get lawyers in here. But the ethics committee has its limit. Now, if, for me, the little I understand of law is that if a court of competent jurisdiction, in this case, a high court, decides otherwise, then the ethics committee doesn't overrule unless you go to an appeal court. And then if you're not happy with that, you go to the Supreme Court. And if you're not happy with that, you go for a review. So there's certain structures that are in place.
Yeah, it is also very instructive to note, and as I said earlier in my introduction, that we're giving initial comments and initial reactions to this decision that has been taken by the Ethics Committee of the Ghana Football Association. Let us remember that there are parties in this matter. One of the parties being Ibrahim Sani Dara himself, who is unavailable to make comments at this time on the show here. One of them is Tiger IPI and Anas Arimeyao Anas, who are not available to make comments on this particular matter. So, as I said, we will get into this when we put our, editorial act together, and we will discuss this matter in depth with all parties so that we can have technical education about what must be done and what can be done, what cannot be done as well in this particular matter. So,
okay. Now, yeah. So let me just clarify here.
Very well.
A lawyer friend has just reminded me to make it clearer. I mean, I've said that in many ways, but just to make it clearer, the High Court that Mr. Sani went to was called to sit upon a defamation matter. That's what it's saying. The outcome is specific to that.
Agreed.
That only. Remember.
Agreed.
To that only.
Agreed.
Yes. And it is not about whether he was guilty or not guilty. It was only about the defamation.
Okay. Understood. Really understood.
That's all.
Very well. Very well. So I've stated it clearly.
And then for one minute.
Very well.
Mr. Tupor raises a question that has been there and is as old as the time I've been in journalism. Because when I started out in journalism, it was very, very common to see the GFA make a ruling about a certain case, then a team will run to the normal courts, the courts of competent jurisdiction. Then we will see an injunction of the league. Then the league will not start for 3 months, for 4 months, for 5 months. And then they will come back to the same question. Does the GFA, for example, throwing Kaltufo Academy out of the Ghana Premier League mean that if a court reinstates Kaltufo Academy under the laws of Ghana, Kaltufo Academy can play? When the GFA
so for instance, I'll give you So Gary, I'll take a quick example. I mean, so we can have a few more examples. I'll take a quick example from boxing, for instance, where a boxer can be in the United States, for instance, a boxer can lose his license in California, yet can fight in New York, because the New York State Athletic Commission has its own rules and regulations, and based on that,
I think with boxing it's slightly different because not boxing. With boxing in the United States of America,
yes,
it's different because there it's a federal republic,
a federal
Very
system.
Well.
Unlike
we have
many countries that you will have a unitary state, and that's where Ghana operates from. In the United States, you have state laws and then you have federal laws. When it gets to the interpretation of certain rules, like Roe versus Wade, which is the abortion case that is big in the States right now, there are states have come out, even though the Supreme Court ruling has not come out yet, states have come out to do their own thing. And so now you may find it difficult, whether you have been raped, whether it was incest, whatever it was, and you take seed, you may not do an abortion in Oklahoma, but you can do it in California. But when the Supreme Court rules at the federal level and says that abortion is not there, then it means that you can't do it, or says abortion is available, then it supersedes the state law. So those are the things you're operating. So the U.S. and in terms of boxing may be slightly different, but yet because of the federal system, each state has its own.
Could be similar to what we're saying. Okay.
Okay, right. I believe we have a lawyer on the line, right?
Very well. No, not immediately.
Let's have Samuel Kofinati on the line.
Yes. Sure. Yeah, Sammy.
Yeah. I think there's just a little clarification on this matter. You see, the GFA's rules pertain to the governing of football administration in Ghana. So the GFA's disciplinary committee is like what we'll call a lower court or an inferior court that will determine matters about football administration. Now, the court is not there to discuss or settle issues about football, because the GFA's constitution expressly gives its various administrative bodies or judicial bodies jurisdiction to determine football matters. Now, the courts would only come in when the GFA has violated certain express provisions of its own laws or general principles of law which are which its decision is contrary to. So, for instance, assuming the GFA's disciplinary committee says that somebody files an action in the disciplinary committee of the GFA disciplinary committee goes ahead and does not hear the other side, that decision of the GFA will be quashed on the basis that it breached the principles of natural justice. And so at the end of the day, the court, if you have a matter and you go ahead and you quickly rush to the court will not hear you, because the court will say you have to go and exhaust all the proceedings at the GFA. So recently, Goldfields and that team have been kicked out of the Premier League effective next season. You realize that they have filed an appeal at the GFA. They have not gone to court. They can only go to court after they have finished exhausting all the procedures at the FA. And so, assuming that the FA's decision, they find out that something that the FA disciplinary committee did violates a fundamental law of the land, that is when they will go to court.
Kofi, Sammy?
Yes, Carl.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I think when you look at it, I mean, if you look at the processes, if you are not happy with the quotation marks, the disciplinary committee's findings, you can go through to the appeals committee. If you're not happy with the appeals committee's finding, you can go to the court for arbitration in sports.
CAS. Yes.
But the little, and you are a lawyer, so I want you to break it down so that the listeners can really understand. If the laws and regulations of the FA are contrary to what pertains in the Constitution, does that not make it an illegality?
Yes, it depends. It depends. So, for instance, you can have situations where maybe the FA's statutes or its regulations are, for instance, maybe discriminatory against one group of people, or their statutes or regulations breach some provisions in the Constitution regarding who can have access or play football in the country. So within those confines, those kind of provisions can be struck down by a court. So as you said, if you look at the hierarchy, before you realize that it is very rare that football matters get into the formal courts, because you have to exhaust all the proceedings. And as I said earlier on, unless you can be able to establish some fundamental breach of substantive law, it will be very difficult for the court to entertain an action in this instance. So in this case where you're talking about this instance of an act, and I like Gary's contribution earlier on where he said his friend clarified. You see, what Mr. Sanidara took to court was a defamation suit.
Okay.
So in proving defamation, there are things that you have to prove in defamation, and the elements of defamation are different from the elements of committing a crime. So you cannot pick issues relating to defamation and then say that because the person was not able to succeed in that defamation suit, then the person is guilty of a crime. If you want to prove that the person actually committed a crime, you have to then prove the elements of that crime that he has committed, or he's alleged to have committed. And that is quite different from what he's imposed. So a person may not succeed in a civil action, but may succeed in a criminal action. A person may not succeed in a criminal action, but may succeed in a civil action. So the things are, the elements are quite different. So
Sammy, thank you very much. You've explained
you.
it for me.
Thank
you very much.
Very well. Sammy, thank you very much. Lawyer Kofi Saminate joining with this particular perspective to the matter. As I mentioned, we will make the effort and the attempts to get
I think you
the
need
parties.
to. Let me put pressure on you. You, Gary, and
No, that
George
is-
Ado.
no, yeah,
you
that
will
is-
need. No, hold on.
Carl, that
You
is what
will
we
need-
always do, and that's the reason why.
And it's not a case of you're going to try to push me off somewhere. You need to get
I'm
your
not
body.
pushing- no.
Educate the people, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm always for it. So what I'm saying is that we will make sure that the next time when we decide to discuss this fully, we will bring in all parties involved. And that is what we have always established here
Absolutely.
on this show.
Absolutely.
It is very important to note that as well. Okay, so carrying the conversation forward, and do remember that you can be a part of this 055 1111 997. During the week, Coach Otuado gave us a list of players as usual whom will be taking part in an AFCON qualifier and then a four-nation tournament in Japan, which is to serve as part of to serve the preparatory process of the Black Stars in leading towards the World Cup. Do remember that there are a limited number of days that the team can be put together. So all of these become very, very crucial in determining who will eventually make the cut for Coach Otuado's final look Black Stars team that will take part or answer the roll call in Qatar 2022. Now, just as players were arriving, and of course Gary's going to give us an update on who has arrived in camp, but it is very instructive to note that one player who has in previous times been receiving call-ups and has recorded a minimum of 10 caps for the Black Stars, and Alfred Duncan, has announced a premature, if I may put it that way, retirement from the national team at age 29. Now, these are quotes assigned to him. He says, "The time has come to say goodbye to the national team. My heart is sad because I want to write a piece of history with the Ghana national team, but they never gave me the chance to prove it. Recently, I refused some summons because I consider it an insult to call me at a time when it's convenient for someone without considering my feeling as a human being who makes sacrifices in his work. If years ago, when I was a Sassuolo player, I had a psychological trauma after traveling 15 hours to go to Washington for a friendly against Canada and not even playing a minute, and I was the only player not to set foot on the pitch. The president of the Ghanaian Federation, Kwesi Appiah, Avram Grant, and CK Akono know perfectly well what I'm talking about and how they treated me." So these are all infographics that we've put together and have posted on all of our individual and team platforms on Joy Sports, on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. Okay.
And on Facebook.
Yes, very well.
I suspect Gary, you and Gary and the current crop, you're doing an absolutely fabulous job. So I'd like to hear from Gary.
Very well.
As
very
he
well.
he moves on.
Now, Gary, before we go into who has reported into camp, you do remember that during the last Olympic Games, we had a conversation here on this show about the psychological aspect of sport with Simone Biles as the focus. You do remember, don't you?
Yeah.
And the kinds of reasons that were assigned for her inability to show at a certain time or her refusal to take part because of the condition or the state of her mind. Now we're getting to know that Alfred Duncan apparently has had, psychological issues. He's had, because of the kinds of experiences he's had, it has affected him psychologically, and it has affected the kind of relationship that he would have wanted to have with the national team.
Yeah. So again, one of the reasons why people like Joy FM and the Sports Link news file before this show, and then the Sports Link, is because of the kind of context they get. It's important to situate Alfred Duncan's statement within a certain bit of historical antecedents. First, Alfred Duncan has been a budding talent since his junior years.
Yes. Yes.
He had been cast in the mold of some had said he was a bit like Lessien, but because he was not as tall, they said he was a bit like Antonianan. They said he was a hybrid between Antonianan and Michelo B. He is a wonderful midfielder. He had a few injuries a few years ago, but for the most part in the last 5 years, Alfred Duncan has been in very, very good form at Handel. Now, he says in his statement, and in the one he posted on the official Fiorentina handle, social media handle, that he feels that this psychological stuff happened because there were clearly times, Nathaniel, and I think many Ghanaians listening will bear Alfred out on this, where he was either the top among the top 2 or top 3 in his position in the world in terms of any criteria, playing time, consistency, whatever it was, but he was constantly overlooked. And it is interesting that he comes out openly to name check those he thinks are culpable for this, what he calls injustice and discrimination, which are his words. Abraham Grant, Siki Akono, and some of the other coaches as well. Now, Alfred, really, there were periods when I think there was a time where I wrote on Facebook that it is odd that Alfred is called at times when he is off form because maybe he has just been injured. And then he is called when he is not getting good form or good minutes, a good number of minutes. He comes to the national team, and if you look at all the 10 caps that he had, Nat, coincidentally, they came within these periods. He was very rarely called when he was in top form. If you look at these 10 caps that he has had, and that is why I suspect he uses the word injustice. You get me? Because when he was in flying form and he was in absolutely rip-roaring shape, he was never called. Secondly, the young man has never hidden his desire to play for the Black Stars. Then he would see players who I suspect did not deserve call-ups, since 2015, because Abraham Grant was 2015, wasn't it?
Yes.
Players, I am sure he feels he was in better form than and so on and so forth, being given call-ups ahead of him. And I suspect that after all these years, he has decided that, you know what, it is better I hang my boots than wait for this national team that will not appreciate my services and what I have to offer, despite my passion. Indeed, he mentions in the letter, in the statement he wrote, that there was a time that he was called to a game in Washington, and with a lot of issues about the flight and the long distance and everything, he still showed up, only to be given 0 minutes and not to be given a look in at all, even though it was, I think, an international friendly or so. So all these reasons are why I think Alfred Duncan has come out to say that he is not willing to play for the national team again. Mr. Tupou can give us, and I see he's ready to speak, a better historical nuance about the Black Stars and whether a player can say that because of this, I am not coming again, and whether the player is justified. Then I'm sure.
Gary, it's interesting. What I do remember from the time I'm talking about the Abedi Pele, Tony Eboa era is when senior players come in and they do not get the opportunity or they get substituted. It takes a whole different twist. I remember when Tony Eboa was playing at Leeds and had to throw the shirt at his coach and all of that. That was because he was being substituted. I do remember, the 2014 FIFA World Cup where Michael Essien was part of the side, but was not given a chance to play. I do remember that the game against Germany, and I covered that game in Fortaleza. I requested an interview from Michael Essien in the in the mixed zone, and he refused. Clearly, you could see that he was very upset that he was not given the opportunity to play.
Okay.
So there's always something with
Before I come in with my comment, I'd like to find out from Gary. Gary, you made a statement to the effect that he was the top 3 in the world in his position.
I mean for Ghanaian players.
For Ghanaian players. Okay. First and foremost, footballers over the years across the world have had an ego problem, for want of better words. Yeah. And so each footballer, regardless of where he is playing, thinks he is there all in all. This is not the first time it's happened in Ghana. I'll refer you to 1970. Granted, I was a kid, so I don't remember it. But I have done research already on it and found out. I've gone to the archives, I've gone to Ministry of Information, and I went to the Graphic Corporation and got. When Ghana was about to go for the African Nations Cup in 1970 in Sudan, Osei Kofi said he wasn't going. Why wasn't he going? Because he felt, one, disrespected, but more importantly, felt that he would get, and these are the words that the legendary Kembe Diako and the rest wrote. Why should he play for the Black Stars? He will get more playing for Kotoko. And so he didn't go. If you fast forward this to what you spoke about, Tony Yeboah, or for that matter, when Ghana met Germany for the first time, in what
the book
labeled
disaster.
Very good. There were some of those ramifications. Truth of the matter was that Pele was not supposed to be coming. By the last minute he turned up. And because Pele was not supposed to be coming, Tony had been assured of the captaincy. At that time he was playing in Germany, not in England. So it was the ultimate. And then the captain comes in. And so the thing is taken away. Like I said, how would Tony have felt in his terrain, in quote? So because the footballers may have an ego problem, and I'm using my words carefully, problem in quote, please. He or she thinks I should automatically be it. What we need to realize is that the prerogative lies, ideally, with the coach and his team. Whereas in England, in the 80s, people said of Glenn Hoddle, the former England coach, the former brilliant, and he was an absolutely fabulous player. I saw him live. He was good. But he was not being fielded as often as he felt, as many media people felt at the time, and as many fans felt. Because the coaches of that era decided to play a particular type and a particular formation. And they felt that he was a luxury that they could not afford. Hoddle never tackled. But you put the ball at his feet and he will split the defense open with a through pass. Can you, and to bring it to your era, can you imagine Hoddle being transported from the 80s to Pep Guardiola's team where everybody must attack and defend? He wouldn't even play 2 minutes. And so when I hear Felix, and I feel for him, I really feel for him, say these things. Alfred, sorry. You begin to look at the coaches maybe not fancying him, in quote, or the style that the coach may want is not what he can deliver. And so it hurts him. And so when you go back to history and you go to Europe, what players tend to say, they don't say, I have retired from international football. Some even go one step further. So long as Nathaniel Atto is the coach, I'm not going to play. They say it obviously, because clearly I don't fit in Ace plans. When you say you have retired from the national team, it means that even if today there's a change and somebody is interested in you, you're still not available. So maybe we need to look at what does he mean by he has retired from international football. I go back to the 60s and 70s. There was a chap called George Best. Absolutely fabulous player. But he had a problem. He loved women and he drank a lot.
Discipline.
But yet you put him on and he would tear the form books. I mean, brilliant. A person like Matt Busby would tolerate it. That's the Manchester United manager then. A person like Bill Shankly would send you off, the Liverpool manager.
Yes.
So it depends on who. And I know and I really hold Gary's views very highly, and yours not, that if you guys are saying he is exactly what he is supposed to be, I can sympathize with him. But I look at everything from a PR perspective, and I don't think he's done himself exactly very good to come out with such a statement.
Still here on the Joy Sports Link on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll do our best to get a quick reaction as well from lawyer Kofi Saminate, who is, in this case, a fan as well. It's always important to get their perspective on these particular issues, how they react to some of these. Kofi, good to have you. It's good to know you're still here. You've just rejoined us. When these kinds of stories pop up, especially when Ghana is in a preparatory phase for a major assignment like the FIFA World Cup, how do you take it?
He gives us the reasons that behind his resignation from the national team. But I think more importantly, if everybody has a right to join the team and participate when he or she is called to the national team. But then again, as you realize, you may be called, but you may not fit into the coach's immediate plans. He may have a backup for you at some point in time. So my team Real Madrid, for instance, Gareth Bale, although for most part of the season he's been fit, you realize that in terms of Ms. Ancelotti's plans for the season, he really doesn't fit in. And so even on occasions where you feel like these are matches that
All right. We had a little challenge with the connectivity there. We'll try to re-establish contact with him.
At the end of the day, so long as the coach can justify. At the end of the day, so long as the coach can justify his tactics and say that this particular player does not fit into my plans, and that is the only reason why he's not playing. Unless Alfred has other reasons that he feels that those are the reasons that account for his lack of playing time, then we can interrogate that. But as a fan, I think that the coach has 23 players to work with. If the 23 players can give him the result, that is it.
Well, Gary,
Matt,
yeah.
if I may chip in as well.
Very
now,
important.
This Alfred Duncan issue, as you know, and as a lot of our listeners may know, has gained a lot of currency this morning because of one particular issue that has happened with the call-ups, and it is the inclusion of Mubarak Wakaso. Right. On the back of Wakaso's inclusion this week, the context is that Wakaso has not played football for his club side in the last 160 days. He's been in Ghana for most of the time, and he's been training alone, but he's been called up. Wakaso and Alfred Duncan play in very similar positions. And it is a position that, for those who are obsessed with statistics and all those things, Wakaso's issue or problem, or if you did the pros and cons of Wakaso's gameplay, the minuses would include the fact that he's quite wasteful with his passing. If we are honest, his pass completion rate has dwindled over the years. Okay, Alfred Duncan has a superior pass completion rate than Mubarak. And people say Wakaso has a lot of passion and all that. But in purely football terms, just like Mr. Tupo gave an example of Glenn Hoddle, who would have been great in a certain era because, you were not required to attack all the time and defend all the time, but would have been completely lost in somebody like Jurgen Klopp's formation or Guardiola's formation, or one of these guys, Ten Hag's formations. Is Wakaso the player, the kind of player the Black Stars needs from a tactical point of view? I don't think anybody around the table or any listener can doubt Wakaso's his passion or what he offers in terms of dying for the shirt. And if you look at a lot of the comments this morning, that is what has angered a lot of people. That for the past 5 years, you have a player who is pound for pound. And again, we have to emphasize that it depends on what the coach is looking for. But Alfred and those who support him will say that if he is playing in a competitive league like Serie A, indeed he has progressed from a lower team like Sassuolo to Fiorentina, and he is commanding a first team place there. Why then do you go for Wakaso, who has been on the opposite spectrum when it comes to growth? Because he has gone from playing in Spain to now playing in China. And now he's not even been playing for the last 160 days, and he has been given a call-up.
Gary.
And I think that is the context to when people are angry and unhappy that Wakaso was given a call, but Alfred Duncan was not given a call this time.
Gary, it's interesting. You've opened my eyes a bit in terms of the fact of Wakaso not playing. But like I keep on saying, there are examples of the past.
Yeah.
If you take in 1982, when England was going to the World Cup, there was a gentleman by the name of Terry McDermott who played for Liverpool.
Yeah.
He totally lost his place in the Liverpool team. And note this very well. The younger generation may not know this, but please note this. At the time in England, you only had one sub. At that time, one sub. Not that you have 15 and then you can choose one. No, only one. So Terry McDermott was not playing. But when he got to the World Cup, Ron Greenwood, the manager of England at the time, picked Terry McDermott in his squad. His justification was that Terry Mac has never disappointed him in the past. So if we accept that the coach had the final and ultimate say, I really think that then Alfred would have to look at his thing all over again. Because sincerely, much as he is a good player, the coach is having his ideas. Otuado wants to play in a particular way. I gave you that as an example. It's not the only one. If you go to Germany, and Germany is supposed to be the efficient nation on this earth. In 1978, Bertie Vogts, who was a part of the 1966 squad, 1970 squad, that placed third. The man who was the captain of Borussia Mönchengladbach in 1974 was the one who kept Johan Cruyff quiet in the finals. In 1978, they didn't have a right back. Guess what? The manager then, Helmut Schwen, decided that no, I'm not going with Bertie Vogts. And he took a centre back, Manfred Kals, and played him at right back. And that was the making of Manfred Kals, because he continued on to win Euro 1980 as a right back and went to the World Cup in 82 when West Germany got to the final and lost to Italy. So you can see, I can imagine what would have happened if that had been Ghana. Why is the centre back being chosen as a right back? But then you say that's in Europe. Okay, in 1978, when Ghana started the African Nations Cup, they had PSK Paha as right back, Ofe Ansah as left back. Ofe Ansah did not have a good game in the opening match. The centre back, who was the captain, Awulekwe, who was not even picked for that opening match, for the next match against Nigeria, they took that centre back to left back. And for the rest of the tournament, Awulekwe played left back. Ofe Ansah could have screamed fair and foul. You may say, oh, that's one off. No. In 1982, when C.K. Janfi was in charge, Kwesi Appiah got injured during the SCSA tournament just after the squad had been finalized and sent off. He went to Libya. We went for a tournament in Benin. We won it, but Kwesi got injured. You would have thought that Hesio Dampton, who was the other fullback, the one who was supposed to deputize for Kwesi Appiah, would have started. No. C.K. Janfi took a centre back who was supposed to be the understudy for Samson Lante and Seth Ampedu, and put him there, Kwame Samson, and he played throughout the whole tournament. So the coach may have a different perspective. And I think we'll be helped in this interview with what Alfred has said by going to find out if we can get the reasons from Otto, from George, from Chris, from Masood Dauda,
Didi
Dramani.
Yeah.
So that we would know.
Mr. Tufo, if I may come in. Now, here's what is important. Remember, Otuado has only been in charge literally for what? 2.5 games or 2 games. Right?
When you say 2.5 days,
Just
what do you
2
mean?
games.
Games.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the young man's ire and disappointment is actually dates back, because he mentions in the statement that now you read it, right?
Yeah, so he mentions Kwesi Appiah, Avram Grant, and CK Akono.
So but this is a new one then.
That is key. Yes. Which is why I personally am a bit like you are, Mr. Tufo. I'm a bit uncomfortable with. I'm like, if Otuado has come in and he has literally just started the job, if I were Alfred Duncan's advisors, I would give Otuado up till maybe the next few national team games. You see, because the man literally had a life and death game against Nigeria. He had not seen you play before, and so he did not bring you in. He has made this call up. Okay, he did not select you. If I were Alfred Duncan's advisors, rather than bring out this statement now, I would again engage Otto on the side. And if I am told by Otuado that, boss, Alfred, you are good, but you are not in my plans, then I can go ahead and issue this statement. But for him to use, quote unquote, the sins of the fathers, the sins of CK Akono, the sins of Kwesi Appiah, and the sins of Abraham Grant, to now say that the current Ghana national team dispensation is not giving him the respect he deserves, are insulting him and are discriminating him, I think that's just my personal opinion. It's a bit hasty. And I would say now to the Black Stars panelists that Alfred Duncan is good enough to, speak to the young man. And Otto should tell him that, look, I'm a new manager. I have just come. There's a lot going on. Look, I have to try. There are several players like you around the world I have to try. The World Cup is 177 days away from today. There's time. We are going to have this all-nation tournament. Yes, I'll try these players. We have a few more qualified, because after Madagascar, we have to play Central African Republic. We have to play, Angola as well. We have those games to play. So give me up to, if by June, July, August, I am not minding you, then Alfred, you are free to do that, but give me some time. And I was a bit disappointed when I saw the statement, because I thought it was a bit hasty. But I can 100% understand, Nathaniel, why the young man is frustrated, and there's really nothing I can say against him about.
Gary, it's interesting that you said this because you bring up the issue of, let's say, Asamoah Gyan, for instance, and that's your era. Unfortunately, I was in the UK at the time. Asamoah Gyan, for instance, and you know not more than most, was vilified, pilloried. What wasn't done to him before 2010? Before 2010. Forget about the penalty incident. But when the coaches kept on persevering, and I remember very well that in this same studio, I brought in Randy Abbey, and Randy had a difficult job. Remember, at that time was the FA spokesperson also. Had a difficult job of defending why Asamoah Gyan was in the national squad. Because remember, in those days, he used to miss more than he scored. Much more than he scored. And Gary will remember that very, very well.
Sure.
But the truth of the matter was that the various coaches from Leroy to Djokovic, or whoever they were, saw something in him, which later emerged in Angola 2010. And then after that, there was no argument whatsoever.
Let's do this message in relation to your submission, Gary. Now it's from Nathan Gaduga. previously of my Joy Online, and he's a Real Madrid fan. He says Eden Hazard was at his peak at Chelsea. He was brought by Los Blancos. He was bought by Los Blancos for 3 years. He's yet to find his feet. He has never played the El Clasico before. And even though his Madrid career has been blighted by injuries, there were many occasions where he was fit and Coach Ancelotti decided not to use him.
Not only Ancelotti.
Yeah. What did he
Zidane
do?
and the rest.
Yeah. What did he do? He has vowed to win back the trust of the coach and the fans. He did not throw in the towel by leaving the club because he has no significant playing time. Thank you very much, Nathan Gaduga. There's another message here from Fifi Bunsen. Fifi says, so if by the current argument he did not fit into the plans of all the coaches that have been with the Black Stars, then who does the call-ups? If indeed the current call-ups was really done by the coaches, did Otto really call Wakaso, who hasn't played for almost 6 months? Very well. Thank you very much.
He's raising another issue.
Very, very interesting.
Raising another issue.
Fifi Bunsen is bringing in.
He's raising another issue that we have been fighting against for years.
Sure.
That there are some voices behind the scenes that maybe, but like I'll keep on telling Fifi, until I've got incontrovertible evidence. Incontrovertible evidence.
Yes.
I'm not going to go in that line.
Very well.
Because I keep on saying the coach is the one who, when we win, we praise. So if we lose, he must carry the can. And if he doesn't tell us that there were these voices behind him that put in Nathaniel Atto and whatnot at the time they were being done, then don't come and tell me after it becomes a disaster.
Very well. Okay, let's wrap it all up. Let's try to do this, Gary, in about 1 minute. Just give us a quick update on who has reported. I saw some images of the captain Andrea Yu, visiting the president and all of that. Can you just in 1 minute, Gary? 5 seconds is gone already.
About who has reported to the Black Stars camp, you mean?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Sure.
Okay, so Afenajan is in, and he's been shown with his mother, showing her the Europa Conference League medal that he won. Baba Rahman is in. Walcott is in as well. Baba Idrisu is in. Those are the pictures I'm seeing. Jojo Walcott came in with Antoine Semenyo. Semenyo of Bristol City. All of them, yes. Those are the ones that I have seen.
Okay, so we'll be doing some more updates as we build up to June 1 and look ahead to that game that the Black Stars will be playing. And you'd have to follow us on all of our channels, on radio, on television, and online, as we bring you all of the latest updates from the camp of the Black Stars, as well as, all of the reactions as well from...
Now, can I make a small comment here?
Yeah,
I'm surprised there. I'm really surprised that if these are the only players who reported, then when are they expecting the rest of them? Sincerely, I would have thought that Hudson, not Hudson, Dennis Odoi.
Dennis Odoi, yes.
His team is Fulham, the club he really made his name with. Finished their league 2 weeks ago. I'd have thought he would have been here by now.
Well, there could be factors. Well,
I'm not going to argue with that, but
Yeah.
that's my worry. When it comes for players to report, then you have some coming in 4 days before. You have a match when? Not June 1. June 1. June 1 is when? It's Wednesday.
Yeah.
Bro, this is Saturday. Let's get real.
Yeah. Very, very genuine concerns being raised by Cartofor, who's here with me in the studio. Lawyer Kofi Saminate on Zoom. Gary Al Smith also on Zoom. There's a message that has come from Ani Osabute. And he says, sorry, Nat, Hazard has been affected by injuries and not because he's not good and could not fit the bill. So comparing the Alfred Duncan issue is neither here nor there. A player is injured and he's invited into the team. That is the thrust of the whole brouhaha. Do you think Hazard on top form will be ignored by the coach? Okay.
Let Annie know that when Hazard joined Real Madrid, when he came for the first training session, he was walked out. You know why? He was so overweight.
He was overweight.
He was
Very well.
so
Yes,
overweight.
that's true.
So that's different from
Yeah.
also the African. So we shouldn't really be. He had it. If he had been trim and fit enough, he probably would have started and then continued before his injury woes started.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it was terrible, and I do remember the images on social
was
media.
nasty.
Terrible. And he's such a good player.
Yeah, he is. He
Such
is.
a good player. Brilliant guy. All right. This is the signature tune that's going to usher us into the moment that will get the whole world to have a collective eagle eye on the city of Paris.
PSG in danger of crumbling here. Oh, goodness me! Absolute delirium, pandemonium in the Bernabeu, caused by Karim Benzema. A Champions League hat-trick.
In there. And he got the flick on and he scores. And Liverpool are ahead. Perfect delivery, lovely finish. And Inter, who looked suspect in set pieces in the first half, despite a very strong second half, are behind to a Liverpool set piece.
Modric, it's a great ball. Rodrigo arrives with a flourish. This is Junior looking for Benzema. He doesn't miss this time. Another header. A vital goal for Real Madrid, who have the aggregate lead back.
Now here's Keita all the way through. Can Diaz get there? The goalkeeper hesitated. It could be a fatal mistake. It is. Liverpool have a third and they have a crucial 2-goal buffer to take to Anfield. That's a massive moment, and the hesitation could be the undoing of Benfica.
Chelsea win the match, but Real Madrid win the tie. Goal, oh, how can you believe it? Rodrigo again, unbelievable. Manchester City had the place in the final in the palm of their hands, and Real Madrid had to dig deep and deeper and deeper, and look what they found.
Fabinho, Salah, Fabinho, he's onside, and Fabinho's gone for it, and he's drilled it through Rooney. Liverpool are back in front in the tie. Fabinho took the ball and drove with it, and he had the power with the final blast. Liverpool fans are ready to cheer another victory. Done the hard way, gave themselves a test. Villarreal stormed back in the first half, but Liverpool had the answers in the next 45. Full time in Villarreal. Villarreal 2, Liverpool 3.
Very well. So this is it. Everybody is getting ready or gearing up for that very big sporting moment. One of arguably the biggest moments in sport around the globe. Thousands and tens of thousands will be gathered at the Stade de France. However, millions around the world will be connected via various platforms for this game, which will define yet another moment of history in club football. Let's begin with Kofi Sami, the Real Madrid fan. Look, number 14. There are those who just, for non-footballing reasons, are saying, listen, you've had one too many. It's becoming boring seeing the Los Blancos shirt and that trophy all the time. But it just seems like, in the build-up, and this is one thing Real Madrid have reiterated and stamped on our hearts and on our minds, that they just have a way when it comes to going through the qualification processes of the final stages of the Champions League towards the final. And when it comes to the trophy as well, they know how to win it.
Yes, I think the Champions League was made for us. And it's for us. I always tell people that, some few people said, oh, Real Madrid used to win the old trophy. After we won the first 5, we are the most successful club in the modern Champions League era. But I think that what people fail to forget is that I always say that Real Madrid's current success in the Champions League must always be credited to Jose Mourinho. And for one reason. Now, before the arrival of Jose Mourinho, this was a team that was always eliminated by the AS Roma, Olympique Lyonnais, Monaco. Look, we couldn't go past the knockout stages. But I think Mourinho instilled a certain mindset in Madrid post 2013 and going forward. And you've seen the team built on that success from Zidane to Ancelotti, from Ancelotti to Zidane, then back to Ancelotti again. And I think that this season, we didn't start all too great. And then I thought that, look, we should have gone out because if you look at the chances that PSG had and the chances that they missed, it was we had a fortune was on our side, and that's why we qualified. Against Chelsea, we had a good game at Stamford Bridge in the first leg. We didn't have a good game at the Bernabeu. Against Man City too, you could see that we had a good game in the last 20 minutes of the game. And so I just hope that the Madrid that turned up at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge is the one that turns up today. Because because this game is going to be like a game where you can count on the fact that you can come back at your home ground. It's just a one-off game. I just hope that we can have a good game.
And make it number 14
in the match.
And make it number 14.
Carl.
It
will be number 14.
I really, really strongly differ with Kofi. Reasons being this: it wasn't Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho had a habit of getting to the semi-finals and then falling. But if he's going to say it's Jose Mourinho, what happened between the era of 1997-98 to 2002-2003, when Real Madrid were conquering all that surveyed, and that was the inception of the Galacticos?
By Florentino Perez,
absolutely,
the president. Yeah.
Jose Mourinho, if you look at his record critically in the Champions League, apart from the shock with Porto and the shock with Inter Milan, he's tended to fall at semi-finals. So already the Real Madrid team, people would argue that it was Carlo Ancelotti rather who taught them how to go over that semi-final hurdle that they fell 3 times in a row under Jose Mourinho. That notwithstanding, you're not meeting a kid's side. You're meeting a team that has a history as much as Real Madrid. And I'm saying it the way the Spanish say it, Madrid, the D being silent.
Yeah.
Okay? You have a team like Liverpool that knows all it and that have done it all. And after all, in recent seasons, they are the ones who brought Madrid's 3 in a row to a halt, or you've forgotten, in 2019. So it's not a case of, listen, some would argue and tell you that Real have ridden their luck. They should have lost. Yes, they won against PSG. They should have lost against Chelsea. And how Man City blew it, only God knows. The first leg should have been 14-3. How Man City do it? And I'll put my last peswa. I don't know where Sammy would be, but if you like, we can meet somewhere. Nat has
we're there at Aviation Social Center later today.
And then
rep your jersey.
Yeah. How do they say it in Shima?
I'll be there. I'll be there.
Mama kind of fancy one. You miss it. You shall want the man.
All right. So let's just start wrapping it up now. Let's get on the phone line now and speak to our first caller. Kweku is our first caller, and he is the priest or the choir master of the Liverpool Army here in Ghana. Hello, Kweku.
Hi, Nat.
Please go ahead. And please lower the volume on your radio set and your device.
Is that KB?
Okay.
Yes.
Nat, is it better now?
Please go ahead.
KB.
Nat, let Kofi or Sammy know that we saw the European Cup. Madrid had freaking good luck. We swear we're keeping calm now. We're bringing it back to Liverpool. In 2018, Madrid were lucky when they won against Liverpool 3-1. And thunder is not going to strike twice at the same place.
Mo Salah will play the full game.
Look, I wouldn't even start Mo Salah. But that's a subject for another day. But look, tonight, like Carl Tufo said, Madrid is not coming to play the Liverpool of 2018. Madrid is coming to play a well-drilled Liverpool side that used to go into games not knowing whether they're going to lose or draw, but now go into a game not knowing whether they will score 3 or 4. Now, Madrid from the round 16 stage have played 2-legged matches and some way, somehow qualified. This is a one-off match. they are not going to get that option of thinking, okay, we are down by a goal, so next leg we come at it this way. This is a one-off match.
Okay.
And the scouser in our team will be at his play.
Very well. Very well.
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yes, sir.
The whole season, they've only lost 3 matches. That's Liverpool. Only 3. They lost in a meaningless match in the second leg against Inter Milan at home, after they had won the first leg convincingly, so it was meaningless. And they lost twice in the league. You see, if Kofi and his team think that they're going to play Liverpool and it's going to be 2018, and I differ with KB on the 20, I thought Madrid were the better team, regardless of how it went. This is different.
Very well. 05511119997. Hello, good afternoon. Well, okay, so we lost that caller there. Okay, so Gary will be our head summarizer this afternoon for Joy Sports. Later this evening for Joy Sports, I beg your pardon. Together with George Adu Jr., we will be on ground to bring you all of the electricity that will be generated, the energy that will be generated by the fans who will turn up at the Hits FM Rep Your Jersey event, in collaboration with Joy Sports, DSTV, and Super Sport, bringing us that big widescreen experience. Okay, Gary, wrapping it all up in the next 45 seconds, your thoughts? Okay, we seem to have lost him there as well. Anyway, so gentlemen, what can I say? Thank you all. It's been very packed this afternoon. So many things to discuss. But as I mentioned, there are issues that we need to go into further. Let's get the Champions League out of the way. Let's get the Black Stars going, and let's get them prepared for the game. And then after that, we'll delve into the rest of these issues. I'd like to say a very big thank you to all of you. Okay, and a very quick one. What are you predicting, Val?
But what am I wearing?
A Liverpool jersey.
Tell them.
That's the prediction.
I guess.
The Liverpool jersey is the prediction.
Let them 3-1. Benzema to score 2. Modric to score 1.
And that's it.
We'll give 1 to Sadio Mane.
Kofi Nate, I bind that statement in Jesus' name.
Okay, so this is where we cut it off because we're just going to be going and going. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure coming your way with the Joy Sports link. Thanks so much to the rest of the Joy Sports team. Thanks to Gary L. Smith. Thanks to lawyer Kofi Saminate. And of course, thanks to Mr. Carl Tufor for making the time to be here with us. Of course, you'd have to join us at the Aviation Social Center. It sure is going to be very, very wonderful. So, to my friends at Stanchart, good afternoon to you, Albert Nanae Suman. You're supposed to give Mr. Carl Tufor a complimentary phone call this afternoon. So please make sure to call him and pay respects to him. My work here is done. The Accra is asking you to call him. Very well, call him. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you. And thanks to the